Good morning, fam. I have decided that I'm going to, let me tag some people, that I'm going to be best served staying out of my feelings. As a Superior Court judge, they tell you to try to stay neutral when you're listening to cases, and even though the person that is in front of you looks like you, and having been a public defender as long as I was, I also knew the inside story on how a lot of kids get to that table. And I'm going to deal at this. I have there's 3 areas I'm going to be talking about probably over the next couple of weeks, because I need to get 45 out of my view for a moment, because you guys are going to hear enough about him on television. What I need to do, and this came because on my walk this morning, I stopped and had probably about an hour and a half conversation with a black officer whose assignment is to redirect traffic because they're doing some infrastructure since people are not out and about. And so, we were discussing, what does he feel about the defunding the police? And he's also ex-military. And he was like, Judge, why don't you explain to them some of the experiences that you have had, and me as an officer, the experiences that we have? Because I live in a middle class, this is a college town that I live in. This is what Seton Hall University is here. And, but the Superior Court of Essex County is in Newark. So I wanted to go back and try to give you some examples from my experience on when I say reconstruct the police, why it's not eliminating the police. So let me just give you some examples. So I'm going to go back to the 90s, because the most of the African-American men that are in prison, and I should say blacks, because they're not just African-American, they could be from Jamaica, they could be from anywhere on the diaspora. It's just the boxes that fill the prisons happen to be mostly African-American or black people. And so when white people, this came to my mind because the major police officer in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in his attempt to try to justify 45 coming there, is saying that there is no problem with the police, because by statistics, they should be shooting more black people than they are. I was really conflustered by that. But again, I said, you know what? I'm not serving the people who watch me by being as angry as they are. Not that I shouldn't be angry, because I'm still black. And because I have not transformed myself to look white. Most people are not, at first look at me and not going to say, oh, she's a judge. Oh, she's a lawyer. Oh, she has masters and doctors. That's not what they're going to see. The first thing they're going to see is my nappy hair and my black skin. Because that's why I said that is our pre-existing condition. Because before they know what's in my head, my pre-existing condition is being black. So again, I'm going to separate my feelings. I'm going to do one topic today, and it really starts with in Newark in the 90s and ended right early 2000s. We used to have the Bureau of Narcotics. That was a one department within the police station. The Bureau of Narcotics, we used to call the BON, their only purpose was drugs, because the gangs had cocaine, there was marijuana, all of these things in the black community. So I want to take that area and just stick with that for a moment, so that we can have some more clarity on what we're saying in reconstructing the police department. Because the BON eventually got shut down. And this is why. You're in the community arresting black boys who are selling cocaine in their community. So if you're looking, the first thought is, why are you selling drugs to one another in your own community? And I said, you're starting at the end instead of the beginning. The first question, as the BON, the Bureau of Narcotics, shouldn't be, why are they selling drugs in their own community? Your first question should have been, how did the drugs get to the community? Because most of the children in these communities where I practiced as a public defender and sat as a superior court judge, your first question is not where did the drugs come from, only that they're being sold. There are no coca plants in Essex County. There are no, now some people may be selling growing some weed in their house, but not enough of the weed that you found on the streets of Essex County. So yes, they did, you do get some people transporting over mules with drugs. But this was my issue, and this was in I remember I'm in my 50s now. So this is in my 30s. So I'm giving you 20 years ago, because some of those people are still in the boxes that we call prisons for narcotics. You have to ask, how did this much cocaine get into this black community in the Northeast, New Jersey? I'm in New Jersey, so I'm going to speak for New Jersey. In this Northeast, when these kids have never been out of this community. So you focus on the result of the cocaine in the community, rather than try to help this community who's being poisoned by this thing. This poison is destroying families, destroying careers, destroying young black men. This poison that has made it to this community, because as soon as the white kids started having issues with painkillers, you didn't look at the painkillers that are so high, get you a high. You started looking at the child that has now been affected by these painkillers, because that's how most of these athletes get these painkillers, and that are, if they can get you down out of that pain. It's just like, heroin for some people is their painkiller. So you looked at it differently when it was affecting white communities. When you looked at the drugs in the black communities, you just looked at the results of the drugs in the black community. You didn't take as much time, effort, and resources to ask the question, how did they get to the community that poisoned the community? If this was water poisoned, coming through the pipes, you lose your mind, because you're drinking that same water. And that water, because we have some of those issues right now in Essex County, water, and we know you went through it in Michigan, poison water, where because it was coming into black communities, everybody was kind of letting it, flow over. So we have to get to start talking about, how do police get into certain situations? How did the cocaine get to the community? Rather than you go right over to the community, watch the boys who's selling it, knowing that you don't have any more YMCA, you don't have any more constructed football, baseball. You're not pulling the kids out to get into sports. You're not making sure that they eat every day. You're not making sure that their living situation is not such that they believe that they need to help their parents, and the way they're doing it is the only way they know how, because that somebody's going to want this cocaine, somebody's going to want this marijuana. What you do is you penalize those who have been poisoned by those on the outside. And no black people are running nowhere to get no cocaine. They don't even know where to get. They know that somebody's dropping this off at this one plot. We're going to get it. If we can get it, bag it up, and sell it quick enough, we can get X amount of dollars. Okay? Whether it be gangs who don't own anything on their block, but the only thing they have is this block, so they're going to guard this block. Because in your mind, everybody wants to own something. Everybody wants to be important. Everybody wants to be king. So you're going to break, the gangs are smart enough to break each other up into foot soldiers and the drug kingpins. You're given titles, and these titles, as ratchet as they are, become badges of honor to be a kingpin. So we're starting at the disease rather than how we got infected. So, it's very easy to talk about the effects of the disease, but if you don't find out, it's like right now we're dealing with a pandemic, and the focus of curing this pandemic is finding out how we caught it before it got all over the world. think of that in the African American community. We have had centuries of pandemics plagued upon the African American community because of those who have put the poison in the community. You're not going after those more times than not of how they have poisoned the community. You're dealing with the poisoned community, but you're not trying to cure it. So you weren't trying to find a cure because it was not a shot. You can't fix it by medication. So what you do, after they're already sick, you want to put them in a box. Now they're coming off of this poison on their own the best way we can. It's so important, and I really have decided I must go about this differently. That's just the drugs in the community. So that's a quick one. I have one more with the issues. Again, this is why we got to rethink the police department. Again, I live in a middle class town, and that doesn't mean it's not even worth a pound of shit except if I have to explain it to you this way. I had a case where it was 5 black boys that were at our town middle school at night, and we have curfews in this town. So you have dusk to dawn. So these 5 black boys are sitting on a bench behind the middle school. Officer passes through, flashlights them, goes out of the parking lot. Now, all 5 of these black boys are home for the summer. This is last year. Home for the summer, different colleges. So the cop comes back, but now he has 3 cop cars. Now, the first time he was already there. It was 1 cop. He comes back. Now it's 3 cop cars. So I'm trying to give you some quick examples of police and why we need to rethink this. So they come back with, now you have 4 cop cars, 5 black boys. Now, instead of the first cop saying, it's after dusk, you guys, you probably need to start dispersing. Even though in the summertime at 10 o'clock, it's not dark. So the boys are still there. This time he comes 3 cars deep, 4 black boys. All right, get off the bench, raise your hands. So these boys, they're like, whoa, because their mom and daddies are black, but they are doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. But see, right now, just like with my black hair, this black face, unless I tell you my degrees, you're not even going to know, nor are you going to assume such. So all they saw was 4 black boys. These so they got from the bench to standing up, pulling their hands up. 1 car, one boy had a car. They got from standing up, curfew, dusk, to these officers in their car going through their book bags. They find 1 joint in one person's bag or half a joint in one person's bag. Not the bag, not any of the 2 bags that are in the police car, but one of the 3 bags, the 3 backpacks that the boys have sitting on the bench. All 5 boys are now standing up with their hands up. Now, South Orange, you shoot 5 black boys in South Orange with as many doctors and lawyers in this town, you're going to have a little problem. But so you can still jack with these little boys. So you go from telling them to leave because it's a curfew to checking everybody's bag, finding 1 joint. Now every kid is charged with this 1 half a joint now. And now right now y'all have decided that that the marijuana is going to be legal because you can make money off of it. You decided alcohol is going to be legal when you can make money off of it. So once you feel that you can make money off it, it's just like I was saying with braiding. Black people have been braiding their hair forever. But once you've decided that you want to have them licensed so you can make money off of it, then they can't do that anymore. So this is what I'm saying. So I'm talking about why we need to do reformation, because how people look at us is different than how people look at other people. So let me go back to my story. So these 3 black boys are patted down, all going to be charged for this half a joint. Now, that these parents are losing their minds, because what is going to happen to these 5 black boys that are in college to come home and get a marijuana charge? These parents want to do every single thing they can so their kid doesn't have to get a marijuana charge, even on a disorderly person, that could get them kicked out of school. Now, so when the kids came in front of me, and I'm going to tell you because I'm not on the bench anymore, so I can tell you these stories. I said, how did you get from dusk to dawn into one backpack? And why, when you came the first time, didn't you just tell them to leave? Because all the boys said, we saw the cop to come the first time, he didn't say anything. Then he came back, then it was 3 cop cars, and then they just told us to get out of the car. So I got to sit there, you know, as a judge, and in my mind, I'm still black. But see, they see, you know, the honorable Takwasi, they say, so but I still got to be the honorable. See, I can't wear all this here. You just will see a black robe. So I'm still got to think with my black mind, but then I got to think with my educated mind. You got to ask yourself. So I said to the officer, how did you get from 5 boys sitting on the bleachers where they weren't playing basketball, they weren't on the basketball court, they weren't making noise. You just see them because it's you floodlighted and you saw them over there sitting on the bench. Why didn't the one car say, guys, you got to go? What was the purpose of you calling 2 more cars to that scene? So now you've escalated. You got these boys scared as hell. And even though, like the grainy picture that I showed you of the young white boy that got killed, these boys know that when you put your hands up, there is all chance. They have this thing you call figurative motion. In other words, you start fidgeting. White cops, for whatever reason, you get scared if we move. If we move, you don't have to see shiny things. Man, how many black people got shot over cell phones? So what I'm saying, if you're a cop and you're automatically in fear, that's not the occupation for you. It's not the occupation from you. If you have gone into war and you come back and you got some PTSD, maybe you're not the cop you're not the person that should be put on a police force. Because these 5 white, if I did not, and I'm telling you, I probably, you know, this is why they, you know, Christie considered me a radical, because it is so important that I not sit on the bench and participate in the destruction of black boys, especially after being a public defender, knowing the inside of how these cases go. Many black boys have pled guilty for stuff that they didn't do because they didn't want to take it to the wall because the possibility that they go to jail. So if they say, okay, if you take this probation and I don't put you in jail, you've now stopped that child from ever getting certain kinds of jobs, ever getting to college. So these poisons that you've constructed the prosecutor's office, even all the way up to the bench, judges are that are paid in certain states have to keep the convictions rolling so you can keep the boxes filled. Those are elected judges. So if we're going to have this conversation, we really need to stop at the sickness and go to the symptoms and go to how you catch the disease from the beginning. So that we're not all confused as if we don't know how. When a cop can say, based on the statistics, we should have shot more black people. No, how is it if we are only 18 to 25% of this country, and that's only because we don't do our census, how could your cells in this country be disproportionately black out of the black community? So we cannot go straight to the jails and say how many people are in the jails. You also have got to, if you come into a community and you already believe you're dominant, because I have this with black social workers. I used to hate black social workers when I was a public defender. Because now you've gotten a job and you're over people that look like you. I had a situation, so many different things I could tell you. A social worker used to be able to tell a black man, and this happened to me, who had dreads, cut your hair. What does that have to do about this boy maintaining a job, staying out of trouble, you know, and doing the right thing? Because you could tell him, because you were his social worker, and you could put any kind of rules that you want, you could say, cut your hair. I remember so clearly me and the judge, I was going to take it to the wall on this case. I'm like, oh, no, hell no. He got locks, I got locks. You're going to tell him that you're going to violate him because he doesn't cut his hair? So I remember, and I'm not going to say this judge's name because this judge has been so great to me over my career, and he's white and he's Italian and I love him and all of this. He's in his 70s now. But I remember I was a young public defender. And my client only had, he had did 5 years in and he was out on parole. And he got violated on parole. And I remember him, you know, you're a public defender, we got 99,000 cases. And I'm looking at this file, I'm like, what the hell? Inappropriate attire in order to maintain a job. He already had a job. So I said, what the hell with this? So I'm like, what did you do? And mind you, this is my client. I'm like, what did you do? Because this right here don't make any sense. I said, this don't make any sense. And so my client said to me, she wants me to cut my hair. I said, boy, I don't have time for this bull crap today. I got about 20 clients here today. So I need to know before the parole officer gets here, what did you do so I can try to get you out of this nonsense, because you don't want to go back and do no damn 3 years. You've already done the 5 out of the 7 that they gave you. Why are you here? So he said, say, cool, I'm telling you, she wants me to cut my hair. I said, you know what? Sit your ass down. That was me now. I'm representing him. So, you know, the white probation officer comes, and then she has her supervisor, was a black probation officer. And she decided that locks were not appropriate for employment. So I'm saying he already has a job. What do you mean locks are not appropriate for his employment? So we're going at it, and I said, you know what? I'm not even having this conversation with you. So I think, you know, I am, you know, they know I'll take it to the wall. So we're gonna go back and talk to the judge. And I said, look, Judge so and so, she's violating him. She wants to violate him because she wants to cut off his dreads. And the judge says to me, this is when I was a public defender, you know, as the probation officer, she can make any reasonable rules. I said, that's not reasonable. And so the judge says, it's reasonable if she says so. I said, what? I said, oh, hell no. I said, then let's argue this. So the judge, actually, I have to say, you know, because I'm telling y'all, there are inside shit, so don't even think that they're not. We're going to break for lunch. We're going to argue in the afternoon. You can't have a direct conversation with the judge. So I'm in the library. The judge just happens to walk through, and we've had hair conversations before. This is before black people really wear dreads. And he says, when he asked me about my hair, he had enough sense as a white man to ask me about my hair. So I was saying, no, my hair is not braided. It doesn't come out. So he says, didn't you tell me that you can, you know, that you would have to cut your hair off because you have dreads, because you don't have braids, you know, you just can't take it out? I said, yeah, I told you that. He says, your client is a man, right? And I said, what are you asking me? He says, if he can cut off his hair and grow it back, then as a man, do you think he should go to jail because you have a principle? Because right now, she has the ball in her hand, meaning the probation officer. And then he just walked away. Didn't even wait for me to answer. But he knew I was smart enough to catch what he was saying. So on that lunch break, me and my client and his wife and his kids, we went up to Bergen Street, which is 2 blocks from the courthouse. We cut off his dreads. He went and got a nice fade and everything. I put his hair in a bag. Came back, and then I told the judge I'm going to be half an hour late because we were still in the barbershop. Got back to court. I threw them goddamn dreads on the table. She looked over, and you know what that judge did? He not only did not give him the violation, because now he's complied. He said he gave a whole colloquy as to why he's going to release him from probation altogether. Was that a wonderful thing? Absolutely. But why did we even have to go through that? Why did that probation officer have the liberty to say, not that he wasn't going to work, not that he wasn't maintaining a job, not that he was coming out of his curfew, because they can tell you have to go in the house dusk to dawn, but because he wouldn't cut his hair. He did not feel, because he already had his job, he didn't feel like he had to cut his hair, so you didn't do what she says, so I'm going to violate you. It's that kind of power that people get, that they get drunk with. Guns are power that people get drunk with. So like that probation officer, those police officers who don't look at how the drugs got in the community, but want to look at how the drugs have affected the community, mothers, fathers. Every case that I had as a public defender's office was somehow connected to the poison of drugs in the community. Women prostituting because they're on drugs. Women getting their kids taken because they're on drugs. Men getting going to jail because they're selling drugs or on drugs or are drug addicted. Because you put the poison in the community, they get poisoned, and you don't ask if their water is poisoned, and it wasn't poison water. You didn't ask how the cocaine gets in the community. You didn't set up a team to go after those who were putting the poison in the community. You looked at the people who got poison and decided that they were the problem. So when I'm saying defund the police, I'm not talking about defund. I'm talking about redirect the focus of what you use that power for. Don't give gun to people who have inferiority complexes that they need to be empowered over other human beings. That's what we need to do, so that we're not caught into this conversation too long, because we will waste a lot of time. Like this question of Black Lives Matter, it should not even be a question. If you say all lives matter, if that really was the case, then this would be a no-brainer argument. But it's not the case. We still have laws, and you still have groups of the Confederates that still believe Black people are inferior. Unless that thought is the thought of an entire nation, we are having a no-win conversation. Donald Trump is depending on those who are marginalized white people or the rich people who need to keep control. Is about power, control, and wanting to be valuable to something. So the poor want to be valuable and special, and so white people have to feel like, at least I'm better than those people. No matter how bad my situation is, we're better than Black people. So if you can keep that thought in their head, Donald Trump has that group of ignorant people in their pocket. I mean, you have to be that ignorant, because if you're going to go to a convention or one of his little speeches, knowing that you could possibly die from a disease and you still want to go, I should say let you go, let you die. But it seems to let you go, let you die. See, it's like let you throw cocaine in our community and let us die. So I done gave you about 3 or 4 reasons to rethink this, and I'm going to continue to, believe I am best suited trying to explain to you what the defunding means. Is not defunding or to dismiss police officers. Police officers should not be going to someone's house who has a child who has a mental illness. You need a crisis person to go there, because you can't control like a kid that has autism. If you don't know that he has autism, autistic kids cannot hear you, they cannot understand you, and they're strong as hell. So by the time you get them on the ground and somebody tells you they're autistic, all you know is this boy is fighting. He's fighting, but he doesn't understand you. So you're gonna break him, you're gonna choke him, you're gonna throw him down, all of that, because you're gonna look at him and think he's an animal. He's autistic, but you didn't ask that question. I told you I have a master's in deafness. If a deaf person doesn't stop, he doesn't hear you. So there's so many things, my people, that we want to talk about, that we should not have to still be talking about our lives matter. Because if life matters to all people equally, this would not be a conversation. We have to have, like I said, we're still back explaining the same thing that we should have been. It should have been clear from lynching. You didn't have to see a man die. And at this 8 minutes 46 seconds, I know everybody is using this as some kind of cry to the white America. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of books with all the ways you used to kill us in slavery, from putting a woman one ox to each leg and splitting her, let a baby fall out. Did you watch freaking Roots? Cutting off our feet, cutting off our arms. I mean, putting people in this whole thing with the box on the border, that we were boxed in on plantations for centuries. So you don't have to go and see the most traumatic thing and have to see it on TV, and that way you can't say you didn't see it, to now all of a sudden, Black Lives Matter. So I'm going to educate you, and rather than being caught up in the emotion, and I'm going to go back, because I have thousands of examples of cases as an attorney and as a judge, that I can give examples of why we need to redirect how we use our police departments, how we use our probation officers. Because probation officers, especially in DISEASE cases, that have the power to take somebody's kid, oh, that's a whole nother story. Black women, white women, men, all who use children as power to keep control of other people, not letting men see their kids. Women, you ain't have no immaculate conceptions to have no babies and not want a father to see their kid. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not that chick because I had a great father. So you and a great mother, so you don't get to own a kid. So that's another one of the diseases in black communities is black women. We got to own something, so we try to take whole ownership of our kids. And fathers, you make fathers believe that you can't see your kid if you didn't get any money at the end of the week. No, that's not how it goes. Because if you were in a good relationship and you didn't have any money, he would see his kid every day. But black men, just because you don't see your kid, you can't say that you can't play child support because you saw your kid, because he still got to eat, he still need clothes, he still need a roof over his head. So that's the confusion that we have. And that's the confusion that I'm going to concentrate on. I got to get out of my feelings because you're not going to hear me as long as I am. And you know, I can sit here and play mental games with all of these white folks who are going to listen to me and then get 90,000 reasons why, oh, that black woman is racist. No, I'm not a racist. I'm an educated black woman in America who has been stopped, and until they see my plates that had judicial shields on it, I had an officer stop me one time. I drive a Porsche with, you know, with shields on it. And then they will run my plates or see the plates and then come back and say, oh, why didn't you say something? Did I have to tell you that I was a judge before you stopped my car? Or now that you looked at my plates and you see those judicial shields, that you want to apologize and say, oh, because you know you stopped me for nothing. You just saw the nice, bright, white Porsche and you said, oh, let me stop this nappy head girl because she must be somebody who's either dating a drug dealer or be a drug. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That's what I want to continue to talk about. And exhale. I'm going to let the intellects in these conversations in Washington try to explain whatever they need to explain, but I want you to have a legitimate argument when you going into all of these different chat rooms, white-splaining. That's not our job. If we're still trying to explain to anybody, I don't care if they're white, they're Spanish, because I don't see an abundance of other ethnic groups jumping on to say we matter until now. We've always mattered. You know we mattered because before the Mexican, we was cleaning your house. We was taking care of your kids. If we didn't matter, how many black nannies have raised white children? How many black mammies have suckled white children rather than even suckle their own kids? You sucked a woman's breast for milk because this white woman didn't want her perkies to go down. So, you know, I'm going to love myself, but I have to love myself and my people enough to educate rather than to get irate. So I have to educate rather than get irate so that I can do my part of this healing process. And I'm not trying to heal those who have malignancies. They already going to die the way they are. I'm going to try to heal those who may be able to take this medication that I'm going to give you, and somehow, even if it takes slow, you can heal. Because those who are malignant, they're going to die that way. There is no explaining, and it's a waste of breath. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. I hope that you are still staying covered and staying safe. Come outside. I actually went to walk. I had a non-distant conversation with a young black officer today who's like, Judge, because he saw me without my mask because I was walking by myself. He's like, what do you think about this defunding the police? And so I let him go. We had a conversation. And he says, I want to say that, but, most of my colleagues are white, so we can't say anything. I said, you know what, bro? You don't say anything. I'll talk. So that's what I have to do. I have to use this time that people are watching probably more videos than ever, and the fact that people actually watch me and teach. Teach and not scream. Teach and not be emotional. Teach. Because I'm still going to be a black woman in America, no matter what. So I am going to teach. Love you, fam. Deuces. Have a good weekend.